as it is 6:30 on September 10th. We lost a month, I'm sorry. I'd like to go ahead and get started. We have our superintendent updates, I think is what we'll begin with tonight.
Are you feeling patriotic tonight?
You know what? Thank you, sir. I just saw somebody walking around. I don't want him.
That should be Fran.
Yeah, let's just give him 2 seconds to hop in. And while he's still standing.
Great.
We brought the mail. We brought the mail.
Tonight we have Fran Yanuskiewicz, a special guest star with the mail.
With the mail.
And we're gonna go ahead. We waited for you to salute the flag.
Oh, great.
I didn't want you to walk in the middle.
That would be great, thanks.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
I get so excited to talk about the freezing mains and the, what do you call it, shelving off?
Oh, we don't want to get into that. Nothing good comes out of that.
No, right.
So, we're going first. Updates?
You're okay.
All right.
Yours.
We'll jump around a little bit.
I'm sorry. Yep, we got time.
Me and Fran like to share.
There's no shortage. I just.
No, I take my own number. He writes on his usually.
Pretty important stuff coming up. The 3 days in September, the 24th, 25th, and 26th, we've scheduled 3 separate fire pump flow tests.
Wow.
This will impact.
You are some kind of masochist. You don't want. Could you make one go to the next
We
week?
don't have the capability of doing the fall flushing. We've
Yeah.
myself and the powers that be here have talked about this sequence, which obviously we can't hold them up. They have to do their fire pump tests. It's insurance regulations. Obviously, there's no good time to do it here in town. We've always had an issue with any one of these 3 large facilities doing their tests. We are going to try and schedule them all on that 1 week and utilize the fire pump test and the cleanup afterwards as a small system flush. We're going to, the first one's going to be September 24th, starting 8 p.m. This is the Whole Market Foods, which is the former Cisco building
Right.
on South Worcester. Once that test is complete, usually within half an hour to an hour, test is done. We have technicians that are out that will maintain the water quality in the area, respond to calls as they come in through dispatch. And the goal there would be to have that corner of town flushed when the system is back to normal.
Right. That's got to be one of your farthest ends, doesn't it?
That is a difficult one to do.
Yeah.
This is one that we do have problems with typically if their pump runs due to an error, whether it be
Right.
a sprinkler
Yeah,
head
right.
fails, they have
Yeah.
a dry system, it turns to a wet system. You know, any type of flow in that area it's a very sensitive area.
And they don't have a cistern in that building to assist with, like you could fill it over time and then back. I guess that wouldn't help. You're looking for the flow.
They have 2 storage tanks
Yeah.
that will run. The problem is system is based also on pressure. So if the system loop on the fire system drops below system pressure,
Right.
the swing check opens on our 10-inch feed and it has unlimited flow because that's how it's designed.
Bring it in. Yep.
That's when we get the hang up in the system over there.
Yep. Okay.
So we're going to isolate that area as best as possible once the test is done. We can't do it before because it would invalidate the test.
Gotcha.
That will hopefully be cleared up by the next night. Then we're moving to the 25th, which is going to be New England Ice Cream, Mansfield Ave. New building, dead end section of town, not too bad. There will be some effects down there. This area we've dealt with before and we can isolate rather comfortably. After the test is done there, again, 35, 45 minutes, whatever it takes for them to achieve what they're looking for. The goal is to open up hydrants behind Roche Brothers in that loop there, hydrants inside the TPC on Smith Street. That'll clean that whole corner of town. The thought process after that is we're going to use the 3 million gallon storage tank, which is at the Polaroid facility in that corner of town. And we're gonna push water backwards across town through our newly cleaned pipes to fill our storage facility at Cottage Street. That should take care of any of the small little side roads that may have been shaken up, as we'll let that backfill the tank overnight. Most
Yep.
of the people will be sleeping, knock on wood,
Right.
don't even realize what happened during that evening. The next day, the 26th, is the Norton Middle School, 215 West Main, right in the center,
The middle of the beast, yeah.
right in the middle. Again, 8 p.m. start, which all our starts are now for the flow test for the pumps. And we feel pretty confident that will clean up rather quick, as you're sandwiched basically between two of the elevated storage tanks.
Right.
So there may be some disruption on Main Street.
Small
and
area.
some of the small side roads.
Literally small.
Right. So,
What sort of information do you think we should share? Could we drag a couple signs out and say, you know, municipal or required testing, please anticipate a little discolored water, or I
You
don't
can do an
know.
alert if you want.
we could possibly do an alert, that was
You know what
something
I
I was
mean?
thinking
I don't
of.
know.
If
As
we-
I,
Day before.
as I mentally try to feel what we're most
Yeah.
suggested to do,
Right,
would be to inform everyone. So if we
Yeah.
can
yeah,
just kind of, you know, post 8 p.m. if somebody's doing a load of laundry and they get surprised, they're not gonna be very happy.
yeah, there is requirements
You know,
that we have in place. It will be posted on the town website,
Right.
it will be posted in the Sun Chronicle,
Yep.
and it will be on the Norton News media page.
Do these companies pay for the advertisement and stuff like that?
Yes, they do. They pay for that, and they pay for the
The time.
the test itself. Right. This is different from the fire hydrant flow test. There's two separate things that are going on here.
Yep.
The pump test is more aggressive, does affect the system a lot more than going out and doing a flow test to look at possible future use
Right.
of putting in a fire system. But these are required, you know,
No,
this
it's-
is something we can't get away from.
No, and if you can kind of do a half or a partial flush, that's fantastic.
Right, that-
Because it's
that's-
gonna happen anyway. The movement's gonna,
Exactly.
you know,
No matter what
loosen
you-
up a little
Right.
sediment, so run it.
Yep.
Do we have an email blast yet?
We do not have email blast
Weren't you the
capability,
media
but we have.
liaison, the digital
I'm
media?
on it.
There you go.
When? How long
Me
does
and
this
Bernie
take,
are still
Bishop?
working on
You
it.
know?
It's in process.
But that was
You know,
something
count
I was
on
gonna
you.
ask if we can do some type of,
We can talk about the
And
details.
no
of the
hermits,
one
not
at
a
the beginning of the
cookie?
script.
Oh,
It's in
no
half
time.
one.
Have I embarrassed it this week? What did I do?
That's what it is.
Huh?
That's
I
what
waved at you
earlier, I
today.
know.
I waved at you.
You gave me the finger.
That was the right finger though. I recognized, I was just hoping you wouldn't hit me. Everybody else
I
comes,
was pretty erratic.
they come right at me.
but,
You're
yeah.
safe in Mansfield.
So that's gonna be a major impact. I'm sure we'll be dealing with that for, I would say, a few days after 3 tests are done.
Back to back, yep. Wow.
The outcome should be good. It's just gonna take time to work through what we're dealing with there.
Is it too cumbersome to get an email system going? Where you can blast out to certain parts of town?
If you wanna
just
help
curious.
me do it, I would gladly
No,
start
I'm
it,
just,
but I do not know how to do it.
Okay.
Well, the alerts, one of the options is email, so we have to sign up for the alert system, and they can either get text, emails,
Well, see, that's,
phone message, it's all one alert.
It's who wants it, they sign up for it.
Right, people want it exactly to sign up for it first.
well, you got, just trying every avenue,
Mhm.
because everyone's gonna have an excuse for not getting the paper, or not watching the local news station. There's always, so you try to, you can do
Right,
you only
cover
can
as
do
much
so
as
much,
possible,
but
right.
I mean,
We need a
email
blimp.
pretty much
We need a
everyone.
water department blimp,
We do.
the blimp.
How much are they? They can't be that, they can't be
It can't be that
They
much
can't be that
money.
much money. You can land that right on your property over there.
It's the blimp pilot is the problem. Or pilots. You gotta have a couple.
We finally had the center elevated tank cleaned. We had to work around their schedule, we had to work around schedules of some replacements that were going on for the antennas up there. We had some cranes in the way. It delayed a little bit. We were offline for 3 days. The center tank, that's a 367,000 gallon tank.
Did they
waited-
take it down or they do scuba?
They scuba.
Yep.
Yeah, and we ended up having 15 inches of sediment, which is an inch a month.
15 or 50?
15.
15.
1-5.
Okay.
So from the last cleaning, that's what goes into that tank, is about an inch a month of iron and manganese.
Yep.
So that
That's
will-
good to track and see.
I can guarantee that's gonna change.
Right.
I would have to
By
agree with
next
you.
year, you can't tell me that, you'll lose a bet.
If you can remember that till then, I'll take that bet now. So that's back online.
Oh.
The sample was back clear. We are not required to do a sample. We do it just as peace of mind.
Seems wise.
And put that back on. So there were a few hiccups by having that tank offline for 3 days, by changing the sequence. Usually we have both tanks, they fill rather slow and discharge slow. So we had a few hiccups in the area. I believe your street was one of them. We were down off the area where you live, and should be better.
Yeah, it's fine now. The valves inspected and everything for that one?
yeah.
So everything's.
That one is actually fairly new. It's
Yeah.
not 1957, so
It's good sign.
that does
Hiccups,
make-
you mean very well?
Yes.
Yeah.
I had the hiccups too,
Yeah,
but
okay. I'm just trying to get your language down.
that's not technical.
Isn't it a water department technical term? It doesn't cross over to Mansfield though, does it?
No, it doesn't.
That's what
Yeah,
the
stays-
difference
It's
is.
local, it's localized, that
All
talk,
right.
yeah.
I was lucky enough to attend the Conservation Commission meeting last night for the Condyne project on Leonard Street. There are a few things that they're waiting for from, I cannot remember the name of the company.
Oh, the consultant?
Yes,
Horsley Witten.
that was it.
Yeah, they, Con9 said that they had come to an agreement through conference calls and emails and stuff for the last 2 weeks, and Horsley Witten was at the meeting, but they supposed to send us a letter, verified everything that they talked about, and if it's consistent with what they said, then we should approve the projects as they discuss next time. So,
Yeah.
once that's done, they get to go forward.
Yeah, they have to replace 3 existing culverts that are there with newer style culverts. There was some discussion that went from elliptical culverts all the way up to a large box culvert, neither of which I was too happy with because of the impact it could have on the existing water main that was there, more so from a load standpoint. It's a cast iron water main, it's 12-inch. There's not much separation between the existing culverts or the proposed new culverts. The best that they come up with, I think they reverted back to one of the original designs, which you guys had looked at,
Yeah.
is a larger elliptical culvert. So it's larger than what's existing, not quite as large as what I believe the board was looking for.
Right. The
but
regs
it-
say it's supposed to be 1.2 times the width of the stream, and one of the perennial streams is like 18 feet. So they were supposed to be around 21, 22 feet, and there's no way we could put a structure that big on top of the water line.
Right.
Or, there's all kinds of issues with it, so.
So there were options of raising the road 7 feet and putting guardrails and basically making a bridge over the wetlands. That obviously isn't feasible. The other option is lowering the water main to maintain you 5 feet of cover. Now you're digging into the wetlands, and you have a main that's 10 feet in the ground, creating a valley, a low spot, which we already have issues with settling in some of our low valleys. That's not an option. I'm not opposed to lowering it slightly to keep, a separation between the new culvert
Yeah.
and the water main. We're never gonna get our 5 feet of cover, regardless of what structure is put over it,
Right.
what shape, what size.
You're like 2 or 3 feet with some insulation, 45 down, 45 across, 45 up, that sort of thing.
That's something that we're gonna definitely talk about.
What size is it?
It's 12-inch.
Oh,
Cast.
It's cast, that's the
Pay
concern.
You said
Yeah,
that.
I would like
No
the
size.
board's thoughts and recommendations on doing, I guess, requirements for what needs to be done there in these areas for the culverts. I would recommend replacing that section of pipe, probably 5 feet either side of whatever size of this new culvert is, with ductile iron pipe. You're not gonna have the impact load if there is some settling that goes on there, or an oversized truck comes down, you're gonna create an impact load on cast iron.
That's
You're gonna be digging.
more rigid.
You drop it further away from the stream, so it's a less steep decline as you
A little.
back. I mean, it'll cost more money to do it the further
Right.
back you go, but if you do a less abrupt
Right,
drop. it
you
will
don't
settle.
want 90-degree angles dropping
Well,
down.
yeah, no.
You don't want,
But the further back you go, the less.
The- the taper,
Back,
right.
back up in 45, 45.
right, or 22, whatever you
Yeah.
can come up with.
Is there a, I don't know if this is possible, is there a, insulated bottom culvert? Like, I'm imagining this thing with some kind of galvy swirled metal thing, the elliptical thing.
I have not seen actually what it looks like.
We installed a couple of them way back, and I don't know why you couldn't have some insulation applied to the bottom of that, and then pipe insulation, and then 2-ish feet of insulation,
Right.
separation, I'm sorry. And,
You know, they make a polycellular insulation that goes around the water main itself.
the pipe,
And, you know, that's definitely something that I'm going to have to request is installed.
right, no, I like the pipe too.
Right.
I like the
But
pipe, but
something on
if
the
you're
box,
thinking like,
right.
we do, some radiant heat in the residential cellar floors, so you put the pink 2-inch down. You run sometimes the, radiant tubing in the
Yeah.
pink stuff,
And
sometimes
then-
on the pink
Right,
stuff.
and pour.
And that separates from the ground. But if you can, in theory, and I don't know if this is possible, but get somebody to blast some insulation on the bottom of that culvert, that would
Right,
isolate the bottom of the culvert or the bottom of the insulation from the dirt, and then the pipe is double
right.
insulated.
No, exactly.
I mean, it's a couple bucks, but it's not like fixing a water main
Right, exactly. Which is,
February 2nd
is
in the
everybody's
middle of the
goal.
night,
Yeah, right.
And we're gonna have to worry about that later on.
you know?
You know, it creates a couple different things, depending on what size culvert goes in, whether it be these ellipticals, whether a box culvert, that's an area that you can't easily
Right,
excavate
no.
any longer.
No, go back. That's again why I'm saying
Right.
if you can
Do whatever
if
you can
really
now.
kind of, submarine it, get triple backup.
That was the argument why they can't go bigger too, because if you have to do work in there, you wouldn't be able to get underneath the
Right,
2
you know,
foot line.
it's
Right.
one thing to go and snake a pipe under, you know, a 2 or 3 foot culvert. A 20-foot box culvert,
You can't get under
you
there.
can't. There's no possible access without removing that culvert.
Right.
You know, and that's just
It's
something
always fun.
we don't want to get into.
Right.
We'd have to get Grant Brothers down there.
Well, I was gonna say Mike Ahern.
Like,
Right, right.
They do it all the time over there.
Can they go up and out of the ground and then down?
Beside.
There is
With-
no structure that's gonna be there to support the main.
Like a
I had
bridge.
thought of that, and
Yeah.
that would only work if they were gonna be raising the road with that bridge structure and have a guardrail or anything like we have on the bridge on Plain Street. And then you'd have the insulation with the aluminum wrap on the outside. That was a multi-million-dollar option that is kind of off the table.
It's hideous to the road. If you can just try to keep the road and that
Right.
access point as much as it will change, but elevations and whatnot, pretty much like it is.
Yeah, so I was gonna try and draft up a temporary order of conditions with all the stuff we're talking about here, and I would have to recommend or require
Yeah,
more valves be installed
right.
at the point of transfer from the cast to the duct.
Oh, absolutely,
In,
that's a minimum.
in
Yeah.
and
If
out.
not at every culvert, at least in the section that's affected by it.
Culverted, yep.
You know, in the culvert area, there is no water services that's gonna be affected. If, for some ungodly reason, we had an issue there, we'd be able to isolate that and still provide water from both
Both,
ends,
yep.
you know, until there was a remedy that was figured out.
How many culverts you talking about? that
There are
they're gonna
3, right?
cross?
Yeah, 2 intermittent streams and 1 perennial.
Yeah, what he said.
What?
He's fast talking 11-letter words.
I just wanted you guys' thought on that. I mean, I think you may have all run into something similar with, where you can't meet the cover for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't know the lifespan of this insulation or what type of environmental impact it may or may not have. I mean, those are other concerns which would go back to the other commission to think
Right.
about.
I'm just, again, I only have the conceptual, mental concept. I have no experience in insulating the bottom of that culvert, but that has to be nice.
Right, I mean, even just the rigid board like you had mentioned, just some
Lay
type
down
of-
some pink stuff and set the culvert on that. But is that gonna settle and demo the road and Keith's gonna go crazy, you know what I mean?
Right,
I don't wanna create a problem, but,
Was it a leach?
I still think
to
they should
11?
cut the pipe out and put ductile in as a minimum.
as a minimum, definitely, whether we agree to lower it a foot or something to get a
Yeah,
little bit more
even-
separation, whatever it comes out to be,
Having a main down 10 feet is gonna be a nightmare for
that
us
that
down
just
the
doesn't
line.
work.
right.
That's just,
And as we sit here, we can say the cast iron is old, oldish. So any new pipe installed under the new box culvert is gonna last significantly longer than what has already been there 50-ish years.
Right.
Less buildup, because it's starting with clean pipe.
So, yeah, so we can start at new pipe, and you pick the distance,
Right.
20 feet from each culvert, you're like 30 feet, I don't know enough.
I guess it would depend on
It's
what
not
size
10.
culvert. Yeah,
It's not 10
it's gonna
feet from
vary.
it, because, you know, the frost goes down and
Down
out,
and
so there's
right,
a,
You won't work, if you're gonna have a problem, it's probably gonna be at the old and new when they meet. So you wanna be working out of that
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah,
Exactly.
back up from the culvert.
So you
and
want,
it's not a
each
huge-
culvert's probably gonna be different. You might have to go 30 feet, like,
Right.
you know.
Yeah,
But 20 feet may be acceptable, and some of them,
Right.
or a couple of them.
so we'll say to you 20 or more feet, and you use your best judgment going back, because they're gonna have to impact 18 or 20 feet to install the culvert anyway.
Right.
5 feet might work, but they're gonna have backups and shoring and whatnot, but, so beyond each side of the culvert, I think 20 feet is the minimum, and the rest to your discretion.
Well,
But,
trying the culvert design that they came up with, we should
And
have
if they're gonna-
room for work.
and honestly, if they're
Smaller
gonna cut
option.
it,
So as far as
they should-
access, there should be.
they should put
Yeah.
valves right
They didn't
there.
go with the big giant box
Right.
At each
culvert.
side.
Use that as one of your transitions.
Exactly.
better.
Yeah.
That's
Because
my
we're
thought.
gonna eventually probably renew that down the line sometime, somewhere, you know, whenever it's feasible.
Right.
Start from a valve and go to another valve.
Right. Yeah. That's what makes sense. I just want to make sure everybody's there
Yeah.
and get everybody's opinion on that. And I can draft up the order of conditions and get that over to them and
And
see if
then
they, I'm sure they're
request
gonna
their
come here.
consulting engineer if they can have such a thing as an insulated culvert in some way.
Yeah,
Because if you do both, you're less likely to have an issue.
right.
And I don't know enough about it, and we want it to properly interact with the water and all the plants and wetlands around it. I don't know enough about that, but
Right.
How much cover do they give you now with the final culvert design? Do they tell you?
They did not, it was,
Because you need 5 feet, right?
that's
Well,
what we'd
do you want?
like to have 5 feet in the perfect world.
This is the smallest option, so this is the minimum, smallest impact I think
Right.
that could be. So I think that
Right. I mean,
should
there
be
are
close to that anyway.
quite a few mains in town because of how wet it was when it was installed. It is not at 5 feet.
Right.
Levels have changed, and we run into that quite often. But you're not gonna go back and fix streets that were done, 40 years ago, just because now the water level's changed. That's as deep as they could go back then, and that was fine for them. But any new installation or repair, we wanna get it as close to what we have for a standard as possible.
good.
When are they gonna do the work? Any idea?
I do not know. We're still waiting on the paperwork to
Yeah,
go
they should have
back to
paperwork
conservation.
2 weeks, signed order in 2 weeks,
Okay.
and then, I don't know, if they can start the winter, and then you have an issue with them opening the road up and then having the pipes exposed in the winter time, and
Right.
so that's
Yeah.
another issue. that they-
Yeah, the
I'm
road
sure they
opening
thought
is,
about
typically, the roads close second week in November.
November 15th.
that. Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, that's typical.
It's over.
Okay, okay.
It's over.
So hopefully the Holmes Street work will be
Yeah, I was just
done
thinking the same thing.
Yes,
by then.
exactly. We're still waiting to jump right over into the Home Street now. Home Street and East Main project, we're waiting to hear back from the town's legal about the exact same contract that was used for Reservoir Street. They want to review it, make sure it's worded correctly and, i's are dotted, t's are crossed. And once we have approval on that, it will be back to us, and then we can give Gravity the green light for
Excellent.
for starting that project there. I was speaking with Tara just before the meeting. They're interested in looking for, where they can and can't put certain things down as far as piping, if they can string it alongside of the road, equipment. I mentioned the road plate person that's across from the Glen there, has that large lot. They may want to reach out to that person and see if that's an area that they could store some equipment, being that you couldn't get any closer
That's the one.
to that area.
And they're pretty heavy duty. Road plate people would like that.
Right, I think they could work well together, so that's something that was gonna be mentioned to Tom from Gravity.
Good.
And it's up to them to find their own spot, but if we can help them out in any
Sure.
way and point a finger, drop a phone number, we'll do that.
How many days is that project supposed to be?
That should be a 60-day.
60 days, so we come close then, right?
It will be close. Right,
Okay.
Might have to get a waiver for a little bit. We'll see how it goes.
yeah. I think,
With any luck at all, Gravity can run pipe.
They are
They do
good at-
pipe.
They're good
They
at pipe, right? Yeah,
they will install the pipe.
right, yeah, we've had good luck with them installing pipe. All right, we'll transition.
But tomorrow you're gonna do, even though there's no
Yes.
contract,
We're doing a pre-construction meeting tomorrow, even though we anticipate the
I
contract.
understand, I understand, good work.
You know, instead of having any delay, you know,
Absolutely.
we've reached out to the powers that be, we've sent emails out. It will be a difficult day to get some of our first responders there because of ceremonies that will be going on.
Right.
You know, if they can't make it, you know, it's understandable, as most of us would like to attend a few as well. And I haven't heard back from anybody who doesn't plan on not going.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that, you know, it may be impacted either way.
Well, it's there if they have the time, if they don't,
Right.
that's what it
And as
is.
a pre-construction meeting, you know, there's always a few more meetings before we get
Right.
going. And if there's any concerns, they can reach out to us directly.
Right, a lot of it can be done with an email and a couple of phone calls.
Exactly. You know, it's a very small street, very minimal impact. You know, I think it should go pretty smooth. A couple more things. I want the board's thought on submitting an article for the sewer building that I asked for at the May town meeting and was shot down. There is a special meeting coming up inside the normal town meeting, October 21st. If I can get 3 new quotes in place, and obviously the funding is still there, it hasn't changed, then I was going to reach out to Jennifer or Scott and show the proposed or thought of location, and just want to make sure that everything's going to work before I put this article there. And if I have to pull it at the last minute, that's fine if it's not going to work with conservation. It's basically a mini space metal building similar to what's out there, slab, you know, a couple bay doors, just to get full separation of our water and sewer departments. You know, with 2 enterprise accounts, everything in here has to be, you know, accounted for separately. The only thing that's not is the storage of the vehicles, which is, everything is inside the water department building, which we're running out of space.
Right,
We have a couple new vehicles that should be coming in within a month or two that were approved at the last town meeting. I would hate to have new vehicles sitting outside. You know, we try and stuff everything inside whenever possible. And you know, we've talked about the separation of water and sewer vehicles and equipment for specific sampling reasons. And you know, it falls back on that. It falls back on the separation of the enterprise accounts, you know.
right.
At a bare minimum, if we can't and we have to shuffle things around, we may need to start charging the sewer department for the use of 4
The
stalls.
space. Or, as crazy as it sounds, add on to this building, which really should just be that separate building.
Right.
And so with the removal of whatever sewer tools, vehicles, and equipment into the dedicated sewer building, frees up space
Frees up the space.
in the water building, a water now dedicated building.
Exactly. You know, it makes perfect sense to me.
Seems simple enough to me.
It made perfect sense back then. For whatever reason, that was the only thing that was shot down out of everything. that
And what
proposed.
were some of the random numbers you were getting before? I know you had talked a little bit about it, just very round, doesn't have to be.
I really thought that we were around the 100 to 125,000 range.
Right.
I think the building, I believe, was coming in under 100,000. That's slab, building, insulated, lights, doors, basically everything there except utilities being supplied to it. So we would have to supply a gas unit ventilated heater, a propane source, and a separate electrical source to it. So that's where the additional monies would come.
Some water for sinks and stuff.
Water?
If we needed to.
You know anybody who can run some
I
water
don't know
lines
if I
and
can
stuff?
find a contractor willing to work here, but,
See if we can't pull gravity up
right.
Home Street.
Just a thought.
I think for kicks, I mean, if you go that far, you should have at least, you know, a
slop sink or
corner
something.
lab or a slop
I
sink.
agree.
And I know they're gonna,
Clean up, reposition.
you know what I mean, it would be nice to have that all over there.
Totally separate, right.
Rather than
Yeah. Sure.
put the people in the middle and, because if you have a sewer issue in the off time, you're coming back, opening up the water building.
To go in there.
And I've been told moving water vehicles, moving sewer, if you can just have that all over there with the cleanup space, that would be ideal. And for what it really is, once you have the building and the excavation and whatnot, a little bit more isn't that bad.
Right.
Is there a bathroom in there?
There is. So, just wanted your thoughts on it. If you don't think it's something that's worth putting out there, I definitely won't, but at some point in the future, another meeting, it will definitely be addressed.
Right.
And
I
this
think
is
it's a
if I
good
can get
idea.
everything in place. I may not be able to get all the quotes back in time by next Tuesday, and if that happens, then it'll be pushed off to another meeting, but
Right.
definitely something I'm still pushing for and asking for. I think the separation needs to be there, and, you know, at a bare minimum, brand new vehicle sitting outside, the vehicle is half the cost of the building.
Right,
I mean-
well, a couple of vehicles are the same in the
Exactly.
building, and then you've got the, you know, this machine, that machine, and
It just,
it
it
goes
makes,
to
it
organization.
makes good sense, it really does.
When does the warrant close?
I'm sorry, what?
When is the warrant?
Tuesday
It closes
for
on
the
Tuesday.
special, yeah.
And they want the actual wording, or do they want just to reserve
I
it?
think I can get a placeholder in there, if I can get just about everything I need in place, and then if for some reason, if it's not gonna work with conservation, I can pull it at the last minute. Yeah, so,
You pulled it on the town meeting in May? Or did
Yes.
you just go to FinCom first and then?
it went to FinCom, it went to Selectmen, and I believe the town manager, and it didn't get past any of them. Everything else that was on my capital improvement budget
Did?
went through. Yeah, we went up, I believe Luke and I had a lengthy conversation with the select persons at the time.
Yeah.
And it was kind of 50-50, but it never made it.
It's okay.
One more thing. Treatment plant schedule. We had another production meeting today. Everything is moving along rather smoothly. There's been a few hiccups there with some telemetry and processors and things that were overlooked but are on order and will be plug and play when they come in, so there should be no delay other than, you know, they've moved some technicians around to do some other things. It was for, I'm trying to think what it was. It was a valve control processor or something, and it was found and it was wired, but the actual controller's not there. So no issue with that, as we're not ready to turn the plant on yet either way.
What's the lead time with something like that?
I do not think I have a time frame on that. I think that was asked and they did not have an answer for that.
Are we able to run anything at all with that, without that?
Nothing
Processor?
else is in place. That one part doesn't make a difference right
Okay.
now. They need to do, they're gonna start working on the second, I think what it was. The second drying bed is what they are gonna start working on next. The excavation for the material from that is gonna be used to level the rest of the site off. Once the site is level, then Columbia Gas has agreed to come in and install the gas line in. They won't install it until it's up to finished grade, and they feel confident that it's not gonna be disrupted by the equipment that's gonna be moving over a brand new gas main with,
Yep,
you know,
I get that.
non-compacted soil. They've installed all the carrier pipes for the chem feed lines, which is gonna, the chem feed line will be snaked in between those. They're waiting on a couple spool pieces, some small special order pieces between a few of the pumps and the pipes that were installed. The gutters are installed with no downspouts. Not all of the translucent panels are in, which is the windows that are around the top. They're still waiting on a few of those, and there was some talk about not installing them even if they come in, because of the heat that's gonna build up in the building. We still have some pretty warm days, so they were leaving that open to have ventilation in there while they're working and to help out with the cooling. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Yeah, it was a control panel for the actuators is actually what, the part that
Okay,
is what's
alright.
being waiting on right now. The drying bed and the land leveling should be within the next 2 weeks is what we have here. And they talked about some of the existing change orders with the SCADA antennas for the water and sewer sites, because we're gonna have a different system. It's gonna run on a different frequency, so you have a whole different set of radios. That's gonna be worked in. And the biggest change is something that I have talked about, and I think everybody's on the same page with. Originally, to run the plant, the magic number was somewhere around 500 gallons a minute minimum to run that plant to begin startup. We had well 4 come back, and although we achieved, 400, 425 gallons a minute, they're not comfortable with that number. So originally, they discussed taking 2 wells and putting it to the plant. My concern is we can't have 2 wells off at once. You're gonna have to take them both offline, rehab both buildings, new low-head pumps installed, plumb them into the system just to get them over there. That wasn't the original plan. It's definitely something that's not gonna work for Norton. It may work at other places, but with these being 3 of our major wells, I can't comfortably take 2 offline, unless my hands are tied.
Yeah.
So what I've come up with, and for whatever reason didn't think about it until recently, is our well 5. It's our largest producer, it is our oldest well, but it is rated for 700 to 750 gallons a minute. We never come back to that when we do a cleaning, but we come close. I would not be surprised if we come back at 600 or 650, which should be more than above their magic number. It's out of sequence from the original setup, so they're working on the order of conditions to change the sequencing. I believe the original was gonna be well 4, well 6, and then well 5, or 5 and 6, but,
5, 4, 6 now.
yeah, I think right now we're looking at 5, 4, 6, and, that's what works for me, that's what works for the
Now,
well,
you
the
gotta-
well operator.
You gotta do that, or, entertain, excuse me, entertain some kind of, flow from another town,
Right.
and let's,
That's the last
that's a
resort.
chemistry issue, and let's not,
Right.
but I'm just saying, those are our really 2
Right,
possibilities.
exactly.
So I think your, juggling the timing around is an excellent idea, and if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world, you go back to what it is.
Exactly.
When
Well
is that
5.
cleaning gonna be done for well 5?
They're still gonna work on that schedule now. We have to get Sullivan on board, and we also have Sullivan for our test wells that we're doing at 5 and 6. So there's some coordination that's going on there now to make sure that nobody's gonna be bumping into each other, 2 separate crews, and make sure
But it's
that
all Sullivan.
it is all Sullivan.
All right.
Right?
They ought to be able to handle that.
Right.
Well, they're gonna double mobilize,
Mobilization.
right? Everybody mobilizes everywhere, so, because we were over here, now you're over there, now we're gonna back over here, we got another mobilization.
My biggest concern, which, it shouldn't be, we just wanna make sure that the areas that we're picking to drill the potential new wells are not in the area of excavation where they have to install the new water main. So, and also working with the buffer provided by the historical committee and,
That's all been mapped out already though, right?
yes, we just need to have the maps overlaid to
Right.
look at the areas that were
Right.
potential sites for 5 and 6 and make
It's
sure
worth-
that the layout.
It's worth doing again, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
We gotta make sure that what we're doing isn't gonna affect either or.
That's right.
yep, all right,
Just
Frank.
do the
Just
water
making,
lines.
making sure everything's gonna work and fall right into place. And,
Good.
that's where we're at with that. We know well 5 has been problematic. Right now, we've actually, I think at the last meeting, I think I mentioned it, we had to, turn the valve down a little bit in the street to maintain enough water over the screen so that we don't create an issue. And, the well's designed to run, 600 to 700, and we're down in the 300s. So it's time, we haven't had any collapse or anything, any damage to the well. Running, at such a low rate, very close to the screen level, you have, it's open air. Your influence on your screen is pretty substantial with hydraulic pressure, which is what happened at well 6 many years back, where we had a partial collapse, and well 6 has a double screen. So we don't anticipate well 6 coming back with a very high yield, because you're very limited on what you can get for cleaning by trying to get your surge block to clean through 2 sets of screens. So well 5 is kind of our option. So that's where we're at with that. I know it may be some paperwork, it may be some change orders, but, my goal is to have things go smooth.
It seems the most direct path. It's not how we planned it, but
Right.
looking from this point forward, it's really, that's the best path.
We have not, I have not, and the engineers have not reached out to DEP until we had our meeting this morning. We want to make sure that we have our plan in place so that we can show, we're on track, this is what we feel comfortable with. Then we'll propose it to DEP for their approval and talk about the startup procedure once we have everything installed and when that will be.
You're right.
Backup, sorry.
Yeah.
They're right.
Do we need a backup in place in case you don't get the yield out of well 5 after cleaning? I mean, we're hoping for 500 plus. If that comes back at 400, we're back in the same boat as we are now, so
Then
what's the plan then?
we would have to look at our second option of putting 2 wells onto the plant at one time, where well 4 has already been cleaned. We would really like to do another quick cleaning when we pull the existing submersible pump out, surge for a small amount of time, being that it came back so good the first time prior to putting in the low head pump. That will clean out any of the fines that are in the gravel pack now and should bring us back to the original capacity. And we should be able to get right up to our permitted amount, which would be the 450. So, you know, the major work has been done at 4 as far as cleaning goes. And where that is a pitless well, which is external from the building, the work can be completed rather quickly, where well 5 and well 6 are both inside the building. So everything has to go through the roof hatch. Well 5, the motor does not fit through the roof hatch because it was revamped over the years, so the hatch is smaller than the motor. So you unbolt it, you lift it up, and it takes about 10 men and a boy to pull it out the front door to get that motor out. You know, we don't have the option of reinstalling the parts like we did at well 4. You know, the parts were in decent enough shape that we were able to put them back in and pump to the system. Well 5, it's time. When it comes apart, it's gonna fall apart. It's overdue.
Good.
But that brings you up to speed.
Excellent.
One more little thing, I think.
Sure.
that We'll deal with MHC after the lengthy review of the MOA
Yes.
that was developed months and months ago, and they finally responded by saying, we need to have a space for DEP to sign it. So they needed to review it again
Yeah.
by adding a space for DEP signature.
Right. Yep.
Right.
Very important.
No
believe-
surprises.
She's away on vacation, I think, is the last email that I saw, so there is still a delay on that.
Right.
Right. Which is fine, I could be on vacation too.
One more, back to the treatment plant. A lot of people have asked, when is it realistically expected to be online? And I know you had mentioned earlier that there were some physical components that aren't in yet, and there's no timeline on that. Assuming they all come in a short period of time, we'll say 3 weeks perhaps. Do we see this by December 1st, I guess is the question.
I've asked that question, and the answer I received is we're still on track for the late November, which is
Same kind of thing.
fall. Yeah.
All right. So Thanksgiving-ish.
Thanks-
I'm just trying to get a ballpark, and I'm not holding you to it, I'm not that guy, I'm just saying I understand it's a mobile manufactured thing with hundreds of components from several suppliers in an imperfect world. I'm just trying to get a feeling for when we think it's gonna be,
Yeah, until I hear
Doing our-
differently, right? Until I hear differently, that's gonna be the date that I'm shooting for.
yeah,
A project of this size and of this intricacy, especially with dealing with the way Norton is set up and the limitations we have, I can definitely see the potential for going over,
right.
but nothing's pointing to it right now that is a hard line to say, yeah,
Right.
we're gonna be, you know, this far out or that far
Right,
out.
no, let's look at the hopeful increase in production at well 5, and maybe that supplies it, and that will keep things on track. Good.
That's our best plan of attack right now.
When you say 12/1 or late fall, is that the day it gets put into the distribution system, or is that just the day you have to start the test to DEP approval to put in the distribution system?
That is the substantial completion date, which means the date that you could potentially produce water from the treatment plant. Now, it's completely up to DEP if they're gonna allow that water to be put into the system or pumped to waste as part of their treatment process plant startup.
Right.
That is something that I was speaking with the engineers about, and it makes perfect sense to me. I can't speak for DEP, but you have a treatment facility that obviously you're gonna need to pump some to waste, make sure all your chem feed works, make sure everything's working adequately, no major leaks, nothing wrong. It would make sense to me, you know, again, not DEP, to dose things at a half dose from where you'd wanna run at when you're typically done. You're treating things much more than you're treating them now before putting them into the system. So you're still gonna be improving the water quality, you're still gonna have your disinfection process working. Why would you waste that water and put it on the ground instead of putting it in the system where it's beneficial? That's something that I'm gonna ask when we have our meeting with DEP and see what type of response we get. I mean, I don't know legally if there's any clauses in there that can't be until you're at full chemical rate, you know, that's something that's gonna be an answer for DEP.
When is that meeting?
That has not been set yet because we changed the order of conditions as far as the well sequence.
Right.
We wanna make sure that's all worded correctly, so when we propose it to them.
So we get clearer as we get closer.
We have a plan,
Okay,
right.
that makes sense.
So they're gonna work on the schedule for the cleaning, they're gonna work on the sequence of installing the pipe in front of 5 and 6. That is not in place now, and then we'll get a timetable together. We can reach out to Jim McLaughlin, who is the enforcement agent for Southeast Regional DEP, and we'll set up that meeting, whether it be on site or in his office, just to go over what we're proposing, and make sure that everybody's on board. He may have some other options, or may have some other requirements, but, you know, from a standpoint and a water treatment operator, it makes perfect sense not to waste such a valuable resource when you can treat it 50% better than you have now, still put it in the system. That is the
Thousands of gallons of
next,
water.
right.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna put it without creating a problem
Yeah.
with erosion,
Absolutely.
you know, anything like that, you know?
Would it benefit both of us, being the conservation and the water department, for you to get together with Jennifer and ask for a directive or a strongly worded suggestion of, we are in a environmentally sensitive area with our treatment plant, the suggestion of overflowing the beds or whatever for the sake of a test seems somewhat detrimental to that environment, and coupled with your need for water and the
Yeah,
sort of thing, I mean, if,
exactly.
I don't see
Yeah,
that
I agree with
hurting.
that, absolutely.
Yeah,
If you had time
sure.
with the.
Well, I'll make time, that sounds perfect.
And
Yeah.
then you can present a better case to them that we're kinda looking at the whole picture and
Yeah.
trying to get that on without impacting the area.
Exactly, I mean, that's such a restricted area, I would think that that would definitely go a long way.
Cause if we have all the bases covered, they're more likely to say, do some pump to waste, but you don't wanna, you don't wanna be
You know, we're not,
flooding that
Wasting a lot of water,
Right.
flooding the wells.
and that doesn't make a lot of
you know,
sense.
if it's not a requirement, you know,
And then I imagine if it gets too close to the overflow of the drying beds, then you gotta shut down, then you gotta redo, and it's just a,
right, yeah, they're not designed to hold that capacity of water, and most likely, I don't believe they're designed for that flow rate to be going into them.
Right, no.
So you could be disturbing, you know,
Yeah.
the sand layer.
And erosion and everything else.
Absolutely.
if
Right,
it
you
was-
could be creating a major issue.
Right,
Before
not
you even
Jen
know.
won't like that.
not what you wanna do.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good, we'll do that.
But if you can, you know, just get a team together and head that way, whether it's in writing or whatnot, I think they could respond positively to that.
Yeah, good idea. I like that, sure.
Not to belabor the point, what's the status of staffing and personnel? Is that all straightened away?
Yeah, that's good.
Yes and no. The union came back, we had some negotiations with that. Right now, that is also off at legal. The union body agreed to the proposals that were put in place. They come back with a few wording changes and legal mumbo jumbo that I don't understand. I passed it off town manager passed it off to legal counsel to verify that everything that was put in there is in place. There is the potential that it may have to go to town meeting for approval because it's a change of an existing contract. Because we're impact bargaining before the contract is up. They, again, reached out to legal to verify, because I have funding in place that was planned and not planned. There was a difference and an overage that was there from when I had to do the budget. When I was interim, I had to put in the full amount for this position. Obviously,
Right.
I did not pick up this position at that rate, so there
Right.
was a difference in funds there that was appropriated. That should pay for the difference in the contract adjustment. The way it is now, it's coming out of the same line item for salaries, so it's
Yep.
not like it's a wording change or
Right.
move money
No,
from
it's
one.
water, salaries.
Exactly.
Very good.
So that should cover that. It was
All right,
unintentional.
Frank,
It's
I have a
working in our
spot, yep.
favor.
You
and-
know it's gotta be linear.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can post job, right? Without having the money, you have money sign up as town meeting
I need
first.
to have the approval before I can post the job because it's not
We don't
created
have a
yet.
job without the approval.
Money, though.
Come on,
You
Scott.
Get the money.
Right, we have the funding in
The candidating
place.
is not part of
I
it.
know.
Gotta have it.
Seems
Right.
like it's.
No, you,
5 weeks. to-
Exactly,
house,
right,
yes,
so
gotta.
the hope is.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
No,
Right.
it's the reality, I guess.
The hope is because we're not asking for additional funding or to amend the current budget, that it does not require town meeting approval. It may be that the selectmen have to vote on it, but again, that's way above me, and we'll wait to hear back from legal on that.
So decision on that has to be made by Tuesday as well?
Right. So I think there may be a line item put in just as a placeholder, just in case.
Right.
If not, that can always be pulled, and that's,
Were you gonna, I know you had planned on attending the last week's selectmen's meeting and did not make it. Are you gonna go this week? And if so, would you mention that to them?
it is not this week, it is next week.
After Tuesday?
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
well then, so much
I
for
am
that
working
one.
on getting a driver
Okay,
for the parties that be, that I normally take around.
yep.
And
Okay,
if I am available, definitely, we will get there and bring this up. Hopefully by then we have an answer, we know
Right.
exactly where this is going. I know they were looking for some updates on the treatment plant. Not much has really changed until we know exactly what this answer is, and then we can get some postings out, and hopefully we
Right.
have movement the way I anticipate it.
Yeah.
And I could be surprised, and maybe there isn't gonna be any, we'll see.
we need the people. We need the people. Plant without the people doesn't help
It
anything.
doesn't work, exactly. All right.
That's it?
That might be it, unless I think of something.
All right, Frank. We're moving over to Weston and Sampson.
Excellent. I can give you a sewer update. So the work on Wheaton, basically the pipe is now in the ground, as far as they could go before the back of the machine would be out in Taunton Ave. So they got about 30, 40 feet left on Howard, and then they'll turn on to Taunton Ave. So it was, they definitely had some struggles. We knew there'd be a lot of utilities that we didn't know where they were. We went to extra efforts to get as much as we could marked out, and what happened is we got a lot of things that didn't exist marked out, and things that were there not marked out. There was just no way. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's out there. We do now. So, but anyway, bottom line, the contractor definitely will have some claims for delays. We'll review those, but you know, all in all, it shouldn't be too bad. They got the pipe in.
Can we put them on Whedon? Delays?
So you can try that, but you know what? You took an easement. You asked Wheaton for permission to put a pipe in the ground there, and you took an easement to do it. There's no benefit to them. This pipe doesn't benefit them in any way. It's for the town's benefit, so it gets a little challenging. When we're on the other half of the campus, we were picking up
It was
Wheaton.
more of their pipe,
Yeah,
Yeah.
their flow.
so it is tricky. They have picked up a couple of minor things, you know, to the tune of like $4,000. There was one change for $4,000 that Wheaton is already paying for. They paid for this utility markout that I mentioned.
I was gonna say the
Didn't get a lot of-
utility
They-
location has gotta be a benefit to them
They-
long-term.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is their
And I don't know if you can
responsibility
put-
to mark out their utilities.
Okay,
But again, it gets tricky.
no, right.
Being
I
an
don't know how-
easement
right.
and,
Yeah.
Yep,
you know, but they picked up the tab for additional measures, you know, because DigSafe wouldn't come in. You had to get a
Wise-
private.
apparently
utility mark.
wisely.
Yeah,
that was a good
Yeah.
call, all right, no,
so,
that's why they don't do private property.
yep, so, yeah, so the first change order on the job was for $4,000 and Wheaton is paying that in full.
Fair enough.
So all that's left out there is paving. There's ongoing discussion. Our plan is, we're done right now and we're gonna come back in the spring and do it, unless that plan changes. Wheaton is running up the flagpole. They seem to have interest in getting it put in binder now, getting the road pulverized and then put in binder. That's what we did last time.
Yeah,
We did it last time because we dug up 4 different trenches. We had, 2 sewer lines, water, gas,
everything.
everything. So we had basically ripped up the whole road. So the contractor requested that. So he did it at his risk. So this time around we have 1 temporary trench patch. The road it's probably in better shape now than it was before, but it's a mess.
Yeah.
So ideally, we'd like to just leave it for a winter, freeze thaw, and then we'll pulverize the
Right.
whole width and do the binder and top at the same time. And you only gotta raise the castings one time.
One time.
So that's where we're at right now. So the crew's out on the state highway. You've been in the loop on just some of the struggles there with the restrictions of the permit. So it was finally got started, and we really only got 3 days of work in out there, and have been shut down for the better part of 3 weeks. Started back up Monday night. So last night. So we've got one more night in, and we're back up and running. So tonight will be so that crew started right in the heart of the intersection of, right where Taunton Ave connects to 123, working towards where Mansfield Ave connects into 123. So they're setting that manhole tonight where Mansfield Ave is coming. Ultimately, we're gonna run a stub over and off the road for a future connection for Mansfield Ave. But they're gonna do those later. So anyway, they should be setting that manhole tonight and then moving past Mansfield Ave. So that crew is gonna continue in that direction for the foreseeable future. They're in the deepest cut. They're definitely pulling boulders out. Each night that they've been out there, they've pulled out a few yards of rock. They've been able to get everything out, mechanical means. Another one of the conditions of the state highway permit is that, they work from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. But if they encounter rock that just can't be removed with mechanical means, that needs to be hammered or blasted, they can't do that at night, which kind of just puts us literally between a rock and a hard place. So we've requested, I've used that one many times. Yeah. It's one of my go-to lines right now on this job. So we've requested relief from that. Mass DOT has not responded, but at this point, if they encounter a rock tonight and they need to bang on it with a hammer a little bit, they're going to do it.
Yep.
They're going to do it until.
We
Because
need-
the other stipulation
need to
in the
make
state
progress.
highway permit is that any complaints will go to the town.
Right.
They're not accepting complaints.
Right.
So they put that right in the conditions of the permit. So.
Complaint
They're really
department, go
involved.
see
Yeah.
town of Norton.
Yeah. So the permit has
Can we
been challenging, and we
cycle
knew
it-
it was gonna be challenging
Can we
from day
cycle it
one.
back to the state and say the town's not accepting complaints, that's gonna go to the state?
I think people just keep going
Keep
around,
handing them
yeah,
on.
and then the people will just go away.
They're gonna complain until somebody listens.
Yeah, no, yeah, they're not gonna go away. No, it's, that crew will continue, they're gonna be out there through the end of the year, that crew.
Right.
It's moving
No.
slow, hopefully, after,
They come up,
a month
they
and a
get
half,
over
we'll get
that
out of the
old-
deep cut, I
They
don't
get over
know.
that old water main or into
Yeah, once
that
we
old
switch
area.
sides, things could move quicker, because they'll definitely be shallower. We're approaching, 12 feet deep, we're gonna go as deep as 14 feet, and then we're gonna come out of it and be about 8 feet deep for the remainder once we get through the deep cut. So, we'll see. Right now, the intention is that the crew that was on days doing the work in Wheaton, is going to shift to nights starting Sunday night, and they're gonna pick up right where they left off on Wheaton, go out to Taunton, and tie into the piece that in the center there that was left. So hopefully this crew will get out of that intersection in Mansfield.
They're one or
And
two
the other
pipe
crew
lengths
will be
away from
coming.
what I saw.
Yeah, and the other crew then next week will be coming. So you'll have 2 crews until that second crew makes the connection there. And then my understanding is that crew will peel back and start extending the service connections for where the Ys have been left
Wow.
behind it.
All right.
So we'll see, but that's the plan. They're definitely anxious to get some progress and move through here, and we're all anxious to see some production. And I was mentioning to you earlier, one thing that is definitely becoming aware to us now Something that's gonna significantly overrun on the quantities is the temporary paving. The way they're being required to do it every night. They've gone less than 100 feet, and we've temporary paved 300 feet. Because every night they dig up the same hole, and they have to temporary pave it every night when they're done. So they're digging up the same temporary paving over and over. If you don't move anywhere, you just keep repaving the same stuff. So hopefully if they can start making some progress, get 80, 90 feet of pipe in a night, and then pave that section, then you'll only have like a 10 or 20 foot overlap each day. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I know exactly.
they just keep digging
Right.
back down, and we didn't triple our quantity. We measured how long the
Right,
road was, and
right,
we said
no.
that's how much temporary paving you need, and
Yeah.
you're gonna have to do it more than once.
Is there any way we can get some relief on that? That they can do it every other night? So that's.
You mean ask Mass DOT for a relief on something in the permit?
Yeah.
Well, they get right back to us.
Yeah. I've got 3 out there right now,
One
requests
more.
out there, so we'll
One
keep
more.
them
That's
coming.
why I
Pile it
want
on.
more.
Yeah.
Right.
Or at least just
I'd also like
backfill
to-
with gravel and road plated. I mean,
Yeah.
It'd be nice to be able to
the
just
rest of
do
the
it at the
world
end of
it
the
works.
week. Yeah,
You
but
know,
I don't think they'll do that.
No, I don't think they will either, but
go for it.
everybody else puts up road plate signs and throw 3 road plates down, pave
Yeah.
around the edges and come back tomorrow night.
Right.
Cut it
The
out.
other thing I'd like to entertain
Not leave
is-
it open, backfill the trench.
Yeah.
If a road plate becomes, I don't have to explain
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, I mean, they're back the next
But it is,
night,
it's-
and they're
it's-
opening it up again, so they're gonna be maintaining it on a
If they're
nightly
only
basis.
going from here to there in one night, well, this is crazy.
Couple of sticks.
Yeah,
It's not like they're opening up a whole stretch of road
right.
in one night. So why keep paying and paying and paying? And then it even slows down the production too.
Yep, there's no
And
benefit. They're working on
the other
paving.
thing that's impacting is, the police.
Right.
They're out there,
Yeah.
they're
Yep.
gonna, 3 or 4, I think there's 4. I don't know if it's 3 or 4 officers they have
I
out
thought
there.
it was 4 in the intersection.
Yeah, I'm sure it is in the intersection, and then hopefully when we get out of the intersection, there'll be less. So the other thing that we should probably entertain is seeing if we can start at 8 instead of 9, by another hour. That'll help a little bit, to get a little more production on a nightly basis. I don't think we
They're not
would
gonna
get,
want-
or do we want to mess with
You don't wanna-
after 5 AM?
You don't wanna do 6, 8.
You don't wanna go past the 5 AM shutdown, that's
No,
legit,
that's
that's
all right.
legit, but I think 8 o'clock, they might budge on, they might give us
Good.
the extra hour. And it has worked well nights, I mean, the traffic in the day, just working on Wheaton, we've seen the traffic just backing up, without us being out in the road, trying to do this during the day would definitely, be troublesome. So we've been having bi-weekly meetings, so there's another meeting this Thursday, 10:30 at the town hall. It's just keeping people up to date, sending out an email to keep people in the loop on what's going on. So I think that's I mentioned before, so we did have some, we've had some issues with the wetlands out on Wheaton in terms of, there's really a pre-existing condition out there in terms of how the runoff from that road, basically scours and silts the wetland. And, but now that we've opened a trench in there, we've gotta keep it from going in there while we're in there. And, they've had to replace the straw wattles 3 times now. Because when you get a good storm, the volume and velocity is
Well, it
just so
doesn't
intense.
rain half an inch anymore, it rains
Yeah.
2 and 3 inches at a whack.
So, and they currently have tripled up, so they have a triple layer of straw wattles in the area where the most scouring is occurring. And I was starting to tell you earlier that they showed up Friday morning last week, and someone had taken them out and pulled them aside because I'm sure it created a puddle in the road because the water couldn't go where it needed to go, and all the silt washed into the wetland again. So, but I did send Jennifer an email with pictures, and she contacted Wheaton. I talked to Wheaton, she's talked to Wheaton. They don't know who would have done it,
Right.
so hopefully we won't get our wrist slapped for that one. So, oh, the traffic loops, I know there was an email on the good old social media about the traffic delays out there. So as soon as we cut the paving trench, we cut the traffic loops out
Right,
in that
right,
intersection.
right.
And they will, so it just reverts to a timer, you know, so it's on an automatic schedule. So it's no longer detecting,
it's
the-
not
it's not
interact-
detecting
it's not
how many
interactive.
cars are there, it's just, you got 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, or whatever.
It's
you know,
1985.
30 seconds,
Right.
30 seconds, so. And people have noticed.
Yeah,
You know, they've
absolutely.
definitely noticed that it's not the same as it used to be. But I was told by Mass DOT that they think that the loops on the other side of, on East Main Street, as you come into the Taunton Ave intersection, that those loops were taken out when the other paving project was done
Most
and were
recently.
never replaced. Which I don't, so that has nothing to do with us. So
Okay.
that seems to have been what the target of the email on social media
Could have
was.
been.
That would
Yeah.
have been the case before we even started digging, if they had already been.
So it's confusing, yeah, because Mass DOT responded to the, so someone from town reached out to Mass DOT and said, you know, why are the traffic backups so bad right now? And the response was, the town's contractor ripped out the loop detectors without a permit. We've been trying to get in touch with somebody.
Yeah, I heard that.
So that got forwarded to me, and right away we responded, we do have a permit, and we actually have back and forth correspondence with Mass DOT. They came out, they marked out the traffic loops, and then we knew that we would then
And then
gonna saw
cut 'em.
cut the pavement. They
Promptly
didn't
cut 'em.
cut them, but they
Right.
told us where they would be, and then we cut them. You know, that's
And
what
we're
you
gonna be
do.
hooked up to
So
come
they-
in, right?
Yeah, so they're aware of the work that we did.
Yeah.
So what I was since told is, no, that email had nothing to do with you guys, it was about the project on the other side. But that means those loops would have been out forever. And once you cut one set, they're all out, right? I mean, it doesn't,
I don't know enough about it.
Yeah,
But I'm
you
thinking, if I'm hearing the timeline properly, the loops that were still in effect must have been having some impact because it seemed, the traffic in some people's minds seemed to be
Something
flowing.
changed, yeah.
So when you interrupted the rest of them,
yeah,
Then it's,
it
yeah.
did the whole
right,
thing.
right, yeah.
I don't,
Bottom line,
again.
it's not the town's fault.
And when does it go back together?
So that's after they get out of the intersection,
So this season?
potentially, yes. The problem is they're gonna have to do it twice, because then they're gonna have to rip them out again
Paving.
for paving, for final paving.
Yep.
So once they get past them with the trench and the temporary paving, they have to put them in.
Couple of weeks.
Maybe, yeah, so then the other crew still has to come up on the other
Catch that
side.
manhole. All
Yeah,
right.
so until they're both done, I would say it's probably a month,
All right,
it's probably a month.
okay.
And then they can go back in until they need to get, and they won't be out as long the next time.
Right.
When we do the paving,
A week.
yeah. So yes, so that's, so we got that. I met with, I had a nice meeting with the residents at the Housing Authority, did the dog and pony show for them, and that was the most fun I've had on this project yet, because they were all so happy.
Yeah.
They're way out of the way, they're not impacted by it, they're
Nothing
thrilled,
yet, right.
they're thrilled, they
They're
thought it
waiting.
was, they thought it was
They're
great.
lis- they're listening.
Brilliant, they loved the whole project, yeah. So-
They think it's fabulous. A couple of donuts, coffee?
There were coffee and donuts
All
too,
right.
yeah, that's.
Sorry, I missed
I think
that
that's
one.
what they like.
Yep, all
But
right.
no, it was, yeah, so we did that. Andrew had reached out and asked if we wouldn't mind doing that, so we did it a couple Thursdays ago, so. We're still a ways from getting to them,
Right.
so,
I'm not even gonna
A
ask
little
what.
bit.
yeah, they did, I keep giving them
Right.
numbers, but, you know, I keep pushing it way out.
Eventually.
You know, and then today Bog Iron was asking
Yeah,
through
they just
email, I
like
told him
this.
midsummer, I said, before, it'd
Right.
probably be midsummer next year before.
They got a guy with a
tie in.
backhoe trenching
Yeah.
over there now.
Yep, there is.
They're gonna catch it when it goes by.
Yeah,
They'll
Yep.
be there first.
yep. So that's my,
And have you, had a chance to walk people's property and set the stakes and all that stuff's kinda ironed out, or that's in
yes,
the
it's
middle?
about
or-
80%, about
Okay.
80% on where they're gonna go, and the ones that we don't hear from, we'll figure it out.
Right.
We'll put it where it needs to go, but
Right.
we've got information back, forms that have been filled out, we've met with people. You know, definitely, you know, for the next 4 weeks worth of work, we're
Right.
pretty good.
And so there's no confusion on, I'm just trying to
Yeah,
streamline, the contractor knows where to put the Ys, the directions of the
correct,
property.
yeah. Yep,
And are there any vacant properties that we would have to assume would wanna connect later? You don't wanna go back into the main and cut the main, or do you?
yeah,
Do you do it?
so other than the,
old bank?
the old bank,
Right, well,
which
that's.
we have some
I imagine that's gonna get
idea.
one.
No, yeah, yeah. So yeah, any vacant parcels will get one, but I'm not, there's one that's a wetland that's not buildable,
Seems like a no.
so that's a no. And we've coordinated with the town on, where the construction yard is now out behind the, what is it, the Council on Aging?
Right, that
Behind
little
there.
substation.
So everything back there is on one system,
Yep,
so there's only one stub there.
right.
So yeah, if there is a vacant lot, we would typically leave
Everybody-
a stub
everybody
unless
get-
we get information that it's just, it's a town, unbuildable town parcel, or whatever. So we are,
Yeah, everybody gets a stub, all right,
yeah.
good. I guess that's it.
One other little tidbit about the money issue, that I think things are finally done, are they not, with the SRF folks?
Yes, so with the trust.
Right.
So the loan is in place, so we can start doing reimbursement requests. So I wanted to bring in the contractor's first pay rec. We're probably gonna need to get that signed before the next meeting so that we can get it in. Because I've had it for a few weeks, but they are working out the kinks. We won't approve it until we see the certified payrolls on the
Gotcha.
first pay rec.
Right.
And they're a Rhode Island company, they're not used to dealing with the mass form. I don't really know what's going on, it's taken them 2 weeks to get us, they sent us the wage rates, and we sent it back with comments that this is fine, but this is federal. You also need to meet the state of Massachusetts. So I don't think it's gonna be an issue, it's just, we're not gonna make recommendation for you guys to pay until
Right.
we know they're compliant.
After conversations with them, they say they've done some mass work.
They have
so
done mass work,
He's
yeah.
gotta,
I don't know if they've done SRF work, so some of the
all right.
requirements.
Another layer,
of-
yep,
Because I need to make sure the paperwork's in place for when our SRF inspector, Leela, comes out once a month
Right,
to
no, it's
flip through
good.
the paperwork.
Yep.
So,
And then when that happens, and we submit that, and the town pays the bill, then we also have to generate a bill to send on a monthly basis to the housing authority. Recognizing the last time they paid the bill within a week, when we sent them the invoice for the connection, the
Right.
connection fee, it was fast. And if
They're
they
ready to
pay the
go.
bills the same way, we get their percentage, they hopefully, once it's in the queue, it'll start,
Yeah.
then that money will flow too.
perfect.
yeah, we gotta start moving on the payments now that the loan's in place.
Right.
So there's a lot of police bills that have come through for Wheaton mostly. But the town ones are gonna start coming fast now.
Right.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
fine. So as the town, are you guys paying the police at this point? Or so are they getting paid?
They hadn't been, no. I talked to
Okay.
Nancy today.
Yeah,
But they, now that she has the PO, but she doesn't really need a PO for police.
right.
So
Now that they know the loan's
they're
in
starting
place,
to-
they can pay
yeah.
them, and then we'll turn around with the reimbursement
Right.
request as soon as we get the contractor's first pay rec.
Yep.
And the same with our first couple of invoices that are in there.
Mhm.
All right. So yeah, so that's where we're at. We're gonna keep going.
Very
See, we
good.
can't go anymore.
Stay on it. Fran?
Last issue on unfortunately, I really apologize that I had to miss the water rate public hearing. I understand it was an exciting event, and it really was
Well intended.
must-see TV, maybe,
Yep.
at some point for me. But the public hearing was 2 weeks ago. Typically, you leave the hearing record open, and I'm not sure that a formal vote was taken.
Right, we have to set the
What?
rates. Well, Scott left,
On purpose.
I think.
I didn't know we were gonna take it then.
You had those running sneakers on, and as soon as the,
But he
The
ran
Fred-
because
the
he
Fred
knew
Flintstone
that the
steps going
record
out.
stays open for a while, so comments can come in. I understand.
Need a time to review.
I done it pretty fast.
you were?
Didn't
I
say
was
bye.
like, hey, all right, we'll catch you at the next
So
meeting.
the
So you
question
wanna
is-
Reopen?
You might want to just vote it, and talking to Tara and Barbara today, there was apparently discussion not only of the first 6 months, half a year, for the rates as of, proposing as of 1/1/2020. But there's also a fair amount of discussion of the rates starting 7/1/2020. So in essence, you're voting for the rate increases for 18 months.
As you've got the figures so neatly written down in front of you, would you say it as a motion and allow somebody to so move?
I can
and
do
we'll-
that.
We'll take it.
So the proposed water rates as discussed and presented at the public hearing 2 weeks ago. Proposed rate for January 1st of 2020, the minimum quarterly charge would be increased to $43.75. And the metered rates, water rates 0 to 400 cubic feet, $35. The 500 to 2,000 cubic feet, $3.30 per 100 cubic feet. And above 2,000 cubic feet, $5.25 per 100 cubic feet. And the capital charge still stays at 25% of the water charge. Part A. Part B, starting on the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1st, 2020, minimum charge would then go up to $57.75, the minimum quarterly use. Meter rates, again, the 0 to 400 is $46.20. 500 to 2,000 cubic feet, again, the tiers stay the same, $3.71. And above 2,000 cubic feet, $5.78 per 100 cubic feet. Again, capital charge stays at 25%. And going forward, you don't really need to vote this, but as you know, after that point, it's just a 10% increase.
10% annual.
And then you gotta watch to see how the revenues are flowing and how your
Track.
retained earnings.
That's why we did just one
Track the
year.
retained earnings annually as well.
But right now, I think it's, that 18-month period is really what you wanna vote on.
And we're gonna go with a
Second it?
so move.
Oh, so moved. I like it. I like that one better than all.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thanks, Fran.
Just to clear it up, it was confusing to me when we talked about it at first, because we had separated the minimum user charge versus the rate for like how many gallons you use. But everyone has to pay the minimum user charge. I think we kind of made a distinction first that like just the minimum users were paying this and everyone else was paying this, so their rates weren't going up the way we talked about it. But everyone's rates for the minimum user, they all pay that first. and
That's
then
correct.
On top of that, so just want to clarify that.
Right. Whether you use 1 gallon or 400,
You're still paying that.
that's,
Right.
that you pay that.
So I didn't think, that it's a lot more than that, so I didn't think that applied to me, but obviously it does, so.
Does.
Yeah.
And overall, I think that we got a good turnout for the water rate adjustment meeting, and there were a lot of good questions and a lot of good comments, and we'll obviously track how the rate change reacts to the retained earnings, I should say, reacts to the rate change and adjust accordingly. There were several comments that this rate adjustment was not significant enough to offset the many projects we have and the treatment plant cost, but we're at this point confident with our consultants and the work that they have done on our system and many other systems that the adjustment should be sufficient going forward, and we will again monitor annually to inspect and adjust accordingly.
Right. The increase in that minimum charge has basically been split, half now and half, come the beginning of the fiscal year. So people ease into the rates. Doesn't make that much of a difference, only because you got six months.
Right.
It doesn't really change things a lot as far as the revenue you generate. But based on the workbooks that Mark and Matt generated, obviously it's been generated to show that there'll be enough money
Right.
to pay the bills,
Right.
and there's some conservatism built into there as well,
Sure.
with some of the costs that have been shown. So I think that it's fairly safe.
And again, it's good to have the turnout and the concerned water rate payers and system users to take part in this process.
Right.
I'm glad Matt was able to talk for a little while too, kind of clear up some of the details, the numbers. I think that helps. Frank,
That's
You
it.
guys didn't have any issues with the logistics in the office to get through those, that schedule?
That will be done. There should not be any issues. There will be multiple phone calls asking what happened for the people that did not attend the meeting, which we won't expect. And if you're available, we have an extra phone set up.
Sure, why not? Yeah, one night this week I don't have a meeting.
Could make it like a Jerry Lewis telethon.
We
Well-
could do that.
Well, the next issue then is, part of the reason for doing this when you did it, is that, you know, come October, town meeting, various town entities, their rates are gonna go up. So the question is, are they gonna be, you know, it's not that a significant or an increase over 6
Well,
months.
budgets are budgets.
Right,
And
and they may need-
everybody's scrimping for every penny, so the comment prior, many years ago when we adjusted the rates, or adjusted the categories as I'm remembering now,
The tiers.
tiers, the comment was that it wasn't, the information wasn't distributed in enough time for them to adjust their budgets, and hopefully this works, and going forward, I think there's some time, and we'll see how everybody reacts to it.
Do various other town entities, boards or committees or departments, do they need to get some kind of notice this is happening?
We gave them a notice prior to the original discussion that we had via email, and gave them the heads up that there would be a change. We did not know exactly what it was, but if
Okay.
they wanted to have a placeholder on the article, if they thought it was something that was gonna affect their level funded budget,
So they've been duly
they were notified.
advised,
Yes.
right? Okay, good.
Good.
Oh, good. And work session on Wednesday? I'm sorry,
Thursday.
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 Today's Tuesday, Wednesday. So, and you each get your own copies of the mailman.
Homework?
Wow,
Cheese and rice.
Study materials.
those are awesome.
The maps are oversized, and I think our co-op student did the map folding, I think he failed map folding 101. But
They're in there.
they're oversized.
They're all
They're
folded.
Thank you.
I'm surprised you
It's a lot harder than it looks, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Just to run a nice little presentation is
They're big maps, yeah.
full size.
I'm sure you guys are gonna run home and read it cover
Yeah,
to
I
cover.
did. I
I'm
was-
on it.
So I was looking for something to do tonight after this. and
Some wrapping paper, that's
Now
what
we have it. So Thursday?
Thursday, 5:30.
5:30, your office.
Yep.
Cool.
That's good.
Mark and Matt won't be there. Just-
Very good. What else do we have? Some fiber optic discussion or?
How's the town hall equipment working, okay? No complaints, everything good?
You know, you never get the, oh man, I got 2 5-gallon, 6-gallon giant jugs of the most pristine water, fed the cat, everybody's happy. You don't get those. I'm looking for some of that. Anybody out there in TV land wants to call with a comment that things are going well and they're not getting dirty water, we're here to take them.
We're still getting people that show up with 60 gallons.
Every day.
Really?
Every
It's
day.
What are
crazy.
they using it for?
I
Probably
couldn't
selling
tell
it.
Probably.
It is, I've actually been there filling, I usually do 2 at a time. And I am just amazed. Because everybody out in the viewing area should know that we don't pay on a gallon basis for the, we're talking about the water purification machine at the side of the town hall, which everybody in our water system is invited to use. I think we have probably some scofflaws, but again, we don't pay based on gallons, we pay based on time. So we pay so much a month, and I encourage people to take the water and use it. It is just an example of what our filtered water can be. But yeah, you see some crazy things going on. A lot of people taking a lot of water. That machine is working.
Just recently, I actually had a couple of the guys go up there and repaint the blocks that are blocking the front of it there, and yeah, their comments of how many people showed up with trunk fulls of the 5
Right.
gallons were pretty impressive.
And-
So the machine is maintaining.
Yep.
Which obviously it may decrease as the colder weather comes upon us, as it did last year, and but people.
Only when tampered with, as I remember.
There were some issues, yeah.
If the machine is left to itself with its properly maintained cleanings
Right.
as scheduled, I think it's
I think we'll be all right.
pretty reliable. But and I will caution the viewing public also not to fill water, any water, too far in advance of using it. Issues in the jugs that you go to carry the filtered water home may create certain problems, so. Having 8 jugs sit in the garage for 2 weeks is not your best plan.
Right.
But other than that, we have our next meeting already? Are there,
24th?
good, yep. Are there any open items that we neglected to address?
Well, I know Plymouth County Waterworks reached out to me to do a tour, but the plant's not gonna be ready. It'd be great to do a tour at Norton, if that was acceptable. We'd talk about it more down the line.
Maybe
But we
this-
do that at new plants,
All
Plymouth
right,
County does.
maybe in the spring.
Yeah, that's what I was, I'll bring it up again at some of the time, because the chateau's right there, so we'll do probably a short demo and have our monthly meeting there. And then we'll try to incorporate the tour at the same time.
Nice.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
The other thing we talked before about the, a plaque for the treatment plant, if, I think you and I had corresponded back and forth about the one that we preferred. I don't know if somebody could do a mock-up of that to see a size and
And spelling.
a layout. Spelling is critical. It's gonna be bronze or some permanent metal that we don't wanna have to chip off and put white out. And hang a little, one of those little, the children's magnetic letters on it.
On top of it.
I think that would be kinda cool, but
Yellow, red,
either we
blue.
go,
You got these.
That's pretty easy to do.
what happened to my name? You guys are killing me. I didn't even see that. But yeah, if we could have a full-size mock-up of that in its proposed state, that would be awesome. And then, I don't know that we'll have an actual ribbon cutting, but it sure would be good after all this anticipation and negotiation and the hurdles that we've all jumped through, to have just a nice little, thank goodness this is getting behind us, so.
Yep. That may be National News Day. I don't know if Spielberg will be invited.
We've got the camera guy going on that one, Bishop, you're all right.
That was good.
Very good. But other than that, I think, we're good. Do we have a,
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
We're out.